everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited you're joining us today because we are about to dive into a childhood story that fundamentally changes how we view wealth, money, and education. We're going to be looking at some of the foundational concepts from Robert Kiyosaki's early life, and honestly, by the time we finish walking through this, your perspective on your own paycheck might just be altered forever. So let's dive right in. Picture this. The year is 1956. We're in a sugar plantation town in Hawaii, and a 9-year-old boy named Robert is growing up torn between two incredibly powerful, charismatic male figures in his life. Both of these men are strong-willed, they're both highly influential, and they both offer him a ton of advice. But here's the catch. Their advice is entirely at odds. It's a fascinating premise, right? What actually happens to a kid's worldview when the two men he looks up to most give him completely opposite instructions on how to survive and thrive in the world? Section 1. A Tale of Two Dads. Now, having two differing voices didn't confuse Robert. It actually gave him a choice. Most of us just sort of blindly accept what our parents tell us about money, but Robert had these contrasting viewpoints presented to him every single day. He couldn't just nod and agree, he had to actually compare them, think critically, and choose a path for himself. And what's really interesting about this is the sheer contrast between these two men. You've got his biological father, who he calls his poor dad. This man is incredibly educated, holds a PhD, studied at Stanford and the University of Chicago, and yet he constantly struggles with money. He uses statements like, "I can't afford it." But then you have his best friend Mike's father, his rich dad. This man never even finished the 8th grade, yet he's quietly building an empire that will make him one of the richest men in Hawaii. He absolutely forbade the phrase, "I can't afford it," and instead made the boys ask, "How can I afford it?" The difference in their advice is just staggering. The highly educated poor dad says, "Study hard to find a good company to work for." But the 8th grade dropout rich dad says, "Study hard to find a good company to buy." Rich dad believed that when you simply say, "I can't afford it," your brain just stops working. It literally goes to sleep. But by asking, "How can I afford it?" you force your brain to engage. It's basically mental exercise for wealth. He figured the brain gets stronger with exercise, and the stronger it gets, well, the more money you can make. All right, Section 2, the toothpaste tube business. So it all kicks off when 9-year-old Robert gets excluded from a weekend trip to a beach house. Another kid named Jimmy took 3 friends, but Robert and his best friend Mike weren't invited simply because they were the poor kids. Hurt by this, Robert asks his dad how to make money, and his highly educated dad gives him this profound piece of advice. "Well, use your head, son." That's it. As Robert noted later, it basically meant, "That's all I'm going to tell you," or maybe even, "I don't actually know the answer." But for two 9-year-old boys feeling the sting of being left out, this vague advice was all the spark their enthusiastic, albeit slightly misguided entrepreneurial spirits needed to get right to work. Their hustle here is just incredible to look back on. Back in the 1950s, toothpaste tubes were actually made of lead. So Robert and Mike go door to door collecting all these used tubes. They set up a full production line, completely blocking the family carport. They fire up the family hibachi grill with red-hot coals, melt down the lead, and pour the molten metal into little plaster of Paris molds made from school milk cartons. When Robert's dad and his friend finally come home, they find the boys covered in white dust, pulling actual lead nickels out of the molds. They were quite literally making money. Unfortunately, Robert's dad had to gently sit them down and explain the concept of counterfeiting. It was, highly illegal. So their dreams of instant wealth were totally dashed. The business was officially over on opening day. But in the aftermath of that, poor dad delivers a really important parenting moment. He didn't yell at them. Instead, he said, "You're only poor if you give up. The most important thing is that you did something. Most people only talk and dream of getting rich. I'm very proud of the two of you." And then he gives them the absolute greatest lead of their lives. He tells them to go ask Mike's dad, the man who would become rich dad, because poor dad's banker was always raving about how brilliant Mike's dad was at making money. Which brings us to Section 3, the 10-cent lesson. Armed with this new direction, the boys manage to score a Saturday morning meeting. They catch the 7:30 a.m. bus over to the poor side of town to meet Mike's dad. When they show up, his home office is already bustling with construction supervisors and restaurant managers. Rich dad bursts onto the porch and wastes absolutely no time. He lays out his offer crystal clear. "I won't do it classroom style. You work for me, I'll teach you. Take it or leave it." When Robert actually tries to ask a question, Rich Dad completely cuts him off. He tells them that opportunities come and go, and knowing how to make quick, decisive choices is a critical business skill. So the boys quickly agree to his terms. So the crucial point here is the wage itself. For giving up their Saturday baseball games, Rich Dad agrees to pay them a grand total of 10 cents an hour. And their job? Dusting canned goods in one of Rich Dad's 9 superettes. Mind you, this is 1950s Hawaii. We're talking way before widespread air conditioning. The store doors had to be kept wide open, meaning every single time a car drove by, the whole place just filled with dust. It was hot, it was sweaty, and it was excruciatingly boring. And man, the next month was an absolute grind. Week 1, they dust cans for 3 hours. Week 2, they get their 30 cents, which, by the way, was exactly enough to buy 3 comic books, and that's it. By week 3, Robert's frustration is totally peaking. He hasn't even seen Rich Dad since that first morning. By Wednesday of the 4th week, Robert is just completely fed up. He feels like a slave for 10 cents an hour. His biological dad is furious and telling him to demand a raise to 25 cents or just quit, and Robert is officially ready to walk away. Section 4. When life pushes you. This sets the stage for our dramatic climax. It's Saturday morning, and after waiting 45 minutes in a musty living room just to get an audience with him, the 9-year-old Robert absolutely lets him have it. Feeling totally exploited and utterly furious, he delivers this incredibly fast-paced, emotional outburst. He accuses Rich Dad of lying. He says, "You're a crook, you're greedy, you want all the money and don't take care of your employees. I'm only a little boy, but I deserve to be treated better." He even threatens to notify the government about child labor law violations. And Rich Dad? He just rocks back in his swivel chair, smiles, and says, "Not bad. In less than a month, you sound like most of my employees." Then, Rich Dad just completely shifts gears. He slows down and delivers this profound Socratic reveal. He says, "I am teaching you. Does teaching mean talking or a lecture? That's how they teach you in school, but that is not how life teaches you. Most of the time, life does not talk to you at all. It just sort of pushes you around. Each push is life saying, 'Wake up, there's something I want you to learn.'" He explains that this awful, underpaid 10-cent job was a highly intentional simulation. He wanted to show Robert exactly how people react to life's financial pressures. See, most people either just give up and let life push them into submission, or, exactly like Robert did, they get angry and they push back, but they push back at the wrong things. They blame their boss, their job, or their spouse. Or they live terrified, playing it totally safe, avoiding all risks, and eventually dying a boring old man. But the rare few, they learn the lesson. They welcome the push because it means they need to learn something new. And then they move on. And that brings us to Section 5. Money works for you. Up until this exact moment, Robert genuinely thought the only way to get more money was to demand his boss pay him more. He was already trapped in the mindset of an employee before his career had even started. But Rich Dad delivers this brilliant piece of tough love. He says, "Stop blaming me and thinking I'm the problem. If you think I'm the problem, then you have to change me. But if you realize that you're the problem, well, then you can change yourself, learn something, and grow wiser. You absolutely cannot fix your financial situation by expecting your boss to give you a massive raise, or by waiting for the government to step in, or the economy to just perfectly align for you. It is always easier to change yourself than everyone else." And this brilliantly illustrates Rich Dad's broader, systematic view of the world. It's what he calls the ESBI quadrant: employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. Rich Dad categorizes income fundamentally differently than Poor Dad does. You see, Poor Dad wanted Robert to climb the E and S side, study hard, be an employee, or be a highly paid self-employed professional, like a doctor. But Rich Dad's 10-cent lesson? That was just step 1 in pushing Robert toward the right side of the quadrant, becoming a business owner and an investor. Rich Dad pointed out something crazy. Out of his 150 employees, not a single one of them had ever asked him to teach them about money. They only asked for a job, and they asked for a paycheck. Most people spend the absolute best years of their lives working for money without ever actually understanding what it is they are working for. And I want you to really reflect on that for a second. Think about your own relationship with your paycheck. Are you just reacting to life pushing you around, constantly hoping for a break? Because here it is. The absolute core grounding maxim of this entire explainer. This is the ultimate takeaway you need to burn into your memory right now. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. The rich do not spend their lives terrified, clinging to the false safety of a 10-cent hourly wage or steady salary. They actually learn the rules of the game so that they can acquire assets that generate income completely independently of their own physical labor. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to challenge your mindset today. Ask yourself, if you stopped working today, is your money still working for you? If the answer is no, then life might just be pushing you around right now. It might be time to stop asking for a 25-cent raise, stop blaming the boss, and start learning how to actually make your money work for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked some serious curiosity for you, and I highly encourage you to keep exploring your own financial education. Catch you next time.